Welcome back to the Resident Founder Podcast, everyone. I'm your host, Daniella, an emergency room resident physician, taking you behind the scenes as I build my own tech startup called PayScope MD. In today's episode, I'm excited to introduce Dr. Mahalia Robinson. She's a pathology resident over at Johns Hopkins University, and she just recently matched for fellowship over at Johns Hopkins as well, focusing on breast pathology. We talk a little bit about her upbringing. We secondly talk about how she decided to choose medicine, particularly in the field of pathology. And lastly, we get into her business ventures, Develop Doc, which is focusing on providing affordable housing to medical students, as well as providing financial literacy teaching. We have an amazing conversation, so stay tuned. For those of you listening, make sure to like, share, subscribe. And most importantly, for those who are listening purely on audio, make sure to leave a review. But hope you guys enjoyed this episode and stay tuned for more on the Resident Founder Podcast. So my first question to you is, what got you into medicine and specifically pathology? Because when I found out you're a pathologist, I was like, I don't know. I don't think I know anybody who's in the field of pathology. So I'm very curious about your journey of choosing pathology as a specialty.
Yeah. So, first question, how did I get interested in medicine? Well, of course, like growing up, I grew up in a small town called Spring Lake, North Carolina. I usually just tell people I'm from Fayetteville because that's the largest city next to Spring Lake, North Carolina. But growing up, I was always great at like science and math. And it really wasn't until I got to high school where I actually had a black physician who was my primary care. And I actually saw like, hey, this is something, I think I could do. And then once I got into high school, um, I actually had my first mentor. She allowed me to come to the emergency room and shadow her for a few, and I was like, "Whoa!" Like I became fascinated, and that's really where I kind of honed in on getting into medicine, as well as just I have always been kind of like a caretaker as well. So like my father, he passed away from complications from heart failure.
Mm.
And growing up, I saw like those complications such as, him not really taking care of himself, so having to, wrap his legs because they were oozing, things of that nature, seeing things that he was going through, and I was just always fascinated with it. Another aspect to that was my grandmother was a three-time breast cancer survivor, and I was always the one that wanted to go to her appointments and ask the doctors questions. I was just always fascinated with it. And not only was I, fascinated with the medicine part, I was always also fascinated with the cancer part. So initially, once I got into medical school, I thought I wanted to go into oncology. So I wanted to do internal medicine and then go into oncology. But while I was in medical school, um, I, got introduced to histology, and I'm a very visual heavy person.
Yeah.
And, with histology, like you gotta, it's pattern recognition. Once you get your patterns, you're good. And my best friend from medical school, she was like, Mahalia, you should think about pathology at the time. I'm like, no, I want to go into oncology. I want to study cancer. And she was just like, do you not understand? Like, you'll be actually looking at cancer directly and you'll be able to, talk about the pathways and things of that nature, not necessarily working directly with the patients, but you kind of get the back end and learn directly how, these tumors grow. Like you learn like what I was actually fascinated with, not necessarily the treatment aspect of, cancer and stuff like that. So, that's essentially how I got into pathology. And, funny story, with my medical school, in order to get to certain clinical rotations, it was like a lottery system. So I went to medical school like 30 minutes from where I was born and raised. So I wanted to go back to my hometown to do my clinical rotations. And I just knew I was going to get it. But lo and behold, I did not get it. I got it the next city, like beside where I stayed. So it was Lumberton, North Carolina. And when I say so upset, I was so upset, but it was a blessing in disguise for me because this was the only hospital that had a pathology rotation.
Mm.
So during my third year, excuse me, that actually allowed me to rotate in pathology and see what pathologists really do. Because, we learn pathology in medical school, but we really don't learn what pathologists do clinically when it comes to treatment and things of that nature, when it comes to making these diagnoses. So if I had not gone to that clinical site, I probably wouldn't have like applied for pathology. I would have always been interested in pathology, but I wouldn't have seen that and I wouldn't have then applied. So that's essentially my, story of how I got into pathology, why I applied, and I love what I do. I love it so much.
No, that's an amazing story. And honestly, I think
Yeah.
a really unique perspective, even for me listening, of like, that makes sense for why somebody would go into pathology. I honestly
Yeah.
didn't even pick up what you mentioned about like pattern recognition and the
Yeah.
visual learning. I'm like, oh, yeah, that would make sense. If someone has that kind of mindset, this would be a
Yeah.
perfect feel for that. And then tying into your personal background with family members, I think it's also like another memorable commencement to that as well, there too. And I
For
kind of
sure.
mentioned in the introduction of you matching into fellowship relating to
Yep.
breast
Yep.
pathology as well. Was that also in relation to your family upbringing with your grandmother dealing with breast cancer?
For sure, for
Yeah.
sure. So, I always knew I wanted to do something breast related, whether it was like breast oncology, breast, like whatever I went into, I
Mhm,
wanted to study like breast cancer. So most definitely, but the first fellowship that I'm doing is actually cytopathology,
mhm,
which is a very, very, very subspecialized unit of pathology where we look at like very minute amount of cells in order to make a diagnosis. For example, like pap smears. Cytopathologists are the ones that look at pap smears and make a diagnosis of, could this be H cell? Could this be L cell? Could this be possible cancer? I think it was either my first or second rotation when I got into residency and I fell in love with it. Everybody in pathology, they're so scared of cytopathology, but I love complex things. I'm like, I get to see like a little bit of cells and I can make a diagnosis like that. And being that I'm at, an institution where we have some of the best cytopathologists, I'm like, yeah, I have to do this and I know that I can learn from the best, most definitely. But yeah, those two are very important to me because not only is breast cancer very near and dear to my soul, but also like women's health period, very near and dear to my soul. So that's why I wanted to be able to look at like pap smears and things of that nature as well.
no, absolutely amazing. And speaking of complexity,
Yeah.
a big thing you have is being an entrepreneur of creating Develop Doc. And so
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
curious in terms of what led you to tap into the field of real estate and kind of creating this business.
Yeah, so I tell people all the time I'm the first everything in my family. When I say the first everything, anything you can think about or being the first, I am that in my family. So I'm the first person to go and graduate college. I'm the first person to do anything medically related. I'm the first person to move out of North Carolina, period.
Mm,
So, with that being said, moving from North Carolina to Baltimore, Maryland, trying to find housing, not really having that, support financially, like from family and things of that nature, like is very hard, especially in a city, to try to find housing in close proximity to like these hospitals. Not only is it hard to find houses, it's hard to find safe quality housing. Like
mhm.
you can find safe quality and affordable housing that that's in close proximities to these hospitals. So I was like, that's a problem. And with that being said, I actually entered into a real estate development program called Developer Baltimore. And I found this program through my fiance is actually, she's a real estate investor and she's also a licensed realtor here in Baltimore, Maryland as well. And when I met her and learning more about her, like I see like how she juggles her, real estate portfolio and things of that nature. Like she has a couple properties in North Carolina where she utilizes it as Airbnbs. And then even here, she does some project management for some people as well. And then also she just, purchased a triplex where she is actually going to utilize it as a entrepreneurial hub and also like rent it out as an Airbnb as well. So just seeing that, and I'm like, while I was in this real estate development program where it teaches you how to redevelop homes, like from A to Z. It teaches you everything that you need to know about working with contractors and, what permits that you need and things of that nature. I'm like, hey, like, I know this was a problem that I encountered coming here to Baltimore. And I know I'm not the only one that encounters that, especially being first gen. Why don't I create a solution for that program? And that's where I created Develop Doc, where basically what our mission is to pretty much redevelop houses in close proximities to these hospitals that have like medical schools as well as residency programs, and make a co-living house. And when I say co-living house, is pretty much like a rent by the room situation. And whoever the tenants are, they will also be provided with financial literacy, professional and career development opportunities. So it's kind of like creating a community. And I pretty much just thought about what I know I wanted and needed coming into Baltimore. And that's what I want to foster. So I want to foster community and foster, a sense of safety, a sense
Mhm.
of, affordability. So it's kind of like a workforce housing type of situation. So that's pretty much how I got Develop Doc off the ground.
That is absolutely amazing to kinda
Yeah.
take that idea and kinda have the execution. I mean, you mentioned obviously your fiance definitely was a big
Yeah.
influence of kinda thinking a little bit about that, but for you to kinda take off, like, you think about your experience being first gen, literally everything, thinking about underrepresented students where you obviously have a
Exactly.
big passion about and try to combine it of a need, I think is amazing. But I'm curious in terms of, like, why do you think that it's not like, why do you think, like, people haven't really invested in that prior to, right? Like, why do you think, like, people just like, I just feel like in my head, like,
Y-
also too, as a
Yeah.
medical student,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, the
Yeah.
closest I could think about too is, like, away rotations was, like, a pain in the butt to find housing, right? And I'm
Yes.
like, "Why didn't nobody find a solution for this for so why is every single year we have these conversations, you know?"
Right. So, one, I think it is becoming more popular,
Mhm,
especially with like short-term rentals. So a lot of people are doing like short-term and mid-term rentals within their homes. Like I have a co-resident that actually utilizes her basement as a mid-term rentals for people that come for like elective rotations and things of that nature. So I think a lot of the conversation isn't being had,
mhm,
and a lot of people don't think about how, affordability when it comes to housing, how that can relate to burnout in the future. A lot of people don't think about that. So if that's not something that's thought about, that's something that's not really, implemented when it comes to like these medical schools. So if the problem is brought up to like places like Johns Hopkins and stuff, which is what I'm actually doing, like I'm pushing this problem like, hey, this is a
mhm,
problem. Like people get to the city, you guys are accepting people into the
yeah,
city, but they can't find quality safe place to lay their head, and that's going to increase their stress,
yeah.
and you're already inducing stress going to work. So
Yeah,
it's like, hey, how can we meet in the middle? How can we, make things work? So I think the conversation is increasing within
mhm,
the community, but I still think it's not to the point where people are like, hey, let me invest in this.
yeah,
And I feel like that's where I'm kind of coming in trying to show people like, hey, this would be a great investment because of the fact that the target audience, like, you're going to get, very good quality people that, aren't going to mess up your house.
yeah.
You're going to get paid. So, so I just think the conversation isn't being had a lot within the community. And I really feel like because we're so evidence based, there's not a lot of research out there as well.
Mhm,
So I feel like if maybe getting started in something in that area that could probably raise the flag like, hey, this is a problem.
mhm,
Um but yeah, I really think that's the main reason why there hasn't really been anything implemented. But it when I say I hear people talking about like student housing that's becoming
yeah,
a buzz, but people don't think about medical students and
yeah,
residents when it comes to students. They think
mhm,
of undergrad.
yeah.
They think of those type of students. So that's why I'm like really trying to hone in on this targeted group because we need help too.
A lot of help.
A lot of help. So yeah,
No, that's absolutely amazing. And you kind of tied in as well of like not only these tenants are not just living there, but more building
yeah,
a community of like learning courses and financial literacy. Are you
yeah.
building like more of like a structured course that they kind of go through?
So I guess you could say it would be like a curriculum
Mm,
based a base style that they would go through. And this is with the help of my fiance as well. She's a financial coach as well.
mhm,
So
mhm.
she does it all. But like just incorporating, learning the basics of what does financial literacy mean. I like me growing up, I didn't know what any of this meant.
Yeah.
So it's like coming into this environment where, in a few years, I'm going to be making good money. And
Yeah.
it's like, I need to know how to leverage it. I need to learn how to, be wise with it. Because
Mhm.
if I don't store it well, I'm not going to have it.
Yeah.
So, I think that's important for people that are of first gen as well to learn about. So, we can create generational wealth because that's
Mhm.
important. Um, so yeah, it'll be kind of like a curriculum. It won't be like really strict curriculum,
Yeah.
but it's something that's going to be had where, you talk about the basics of financial literacy. You also talk about what does home ownership look like.
Mm.
Everybody don't even know that there's a physician's mortgage loan.
Yeah.
Like we should know about this. We should
Mhm.
know what's the requirements. And so
Mhm.
essentially what the goal is once they're done with the curriculum, if they meet a certain criteria, with my partners I have with that have a physician's mortgage loan, the hope is to, like, as I do fix and flips as well, they can be able to purchase a property that's in, my
Mm.
arsenal of homes, and then they can start creating their own generational wealth, whether is they are kind of investing in developed doc if they want to utilize that house for a developed doc co-living home. If they
Mm.
want, if they want to use that for their first investment, or even if they want to use that as their first home to stay in, they can do that. So that's kind of the long term goal when it comes to develop dog.
No, that's absolutely like honestly amazing. I mean, even for me, like I'm also first gen, pretty much everything as well
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Both my parents are immigrants from Jamaica, so I'm literally first American born, first person to
Wow.
graduate high school, first one to go through college, like
Wow.
literally everything. Nobody in my family has anything beyond a bachelor's degree. So kind of navigating everything, and the biggest piece is the financial piece that I also really resonate with you a lot because I
Yes.
had to learn how to manage money pretty early.
Right.
I took
Right.
2 gap years off before starting medical school, so I was working, and that was my first time ever having a paycheck, and I knew
Yeah.
nothing
Yeah.
about taxes, how to pay
Yep.
bills, how anything worked, credit cards, and so, it's kind of funny now in my residency program of, like, people kinda, like, making me, like, the financial guru, not because I'm an expert, but I kinda know some of the
You
basics of
learn. You
financial.
had to
I
learn.
had to learn,
Yeah. Yeah.
I had no choice,
Yeah.
like how to
Exactly.
manage loans and debt and paying off things aggressively and like
Right.
as you mentioned, learning about how the wealthy remain wealthy. And as you mentioned, it's real estate is a big
Right.
component of that, right?
Right.
This is
Right.
how people are able to pass down that generational wealth of like having
Right.
different properties or not even necessarily like doing like flips, but even can be commercial real estate, whatever the
Right.
case may be. A lot of it is the big
Right.
backbone. But I think, like you mentioned, education is like super key, especially for professionals like ourselves that are going to be high income earners, of making
For
sure that
sure.
we have the tools and knowledge so that, we don't lose all this money. And I think, especially for us who are first generation, you hear, unfortunately, a lot of people where we make a lot of money, but then you just don't know how to manage it at all.
Exactly.
And I
Exactly.
think that's the toughest thing of it all when you just don't
It
have that
is.
mentorship there immediately.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So you kind of touched up on it a little bit, but are you going out and buying properties and flipping them for Develop Doc, or are you already meeting people who have properties who want to list it to be part of Develop Doc? How's that process kind of look like?
So we haven't gotten a home yet for development, but that's our
Hmm.
goal for 2026. Last year I strictly worked on the infrastructure of
Gotcha.
building my curriculum, building my, systems in place and stuff like that. So what my goal is for this year is to pretty much purchase these homes.
Hmm.
Purchase homes that are vacant in Baltimore City. And I don't know if you know a lot about Baltimore City, but
Hmm.
there are a lot of vacant properties, especially in close proximities to like Johns Hopkins Hopkins, University of Maryland, and Mercy Medical as well. And I'm going to pretty much like fix and flip it, but I'm going to hold the property
Hmm.
and I'm going to utilize it and rent it out to first generation of medical trainees.
Gotcha. And is it
Yeah.
primarily going to be mainly medical trainees or other health professionals as well?
So I've been thinking about that a lot, and I want to start with medical trainees
Hmm.
first,
Hmm.
see how um, how much traction I get with medical trainees, and then I do want to open it up to dentistry and nursing and physical therapists, all those types of PA, all of them.
No, that's amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
outside of your fiance, have you had like really good mentorship, kind of like navigating the space within real estate, especially in terms of like this niche that you're kind of creating?
Yeah, so I actually have a couple mentors in real estate development. I'm actually working with a company called HTP Homes, and they'll actually be my like primary contractor on my projects and things of
Nice.
that nature. But I also have mentors, especially being that I went through the real estate development course, Developer Baltimore. So there are a plethora of resources that we gained in that program where, I'm able to have one-on-one meetings with the um, our instructor over that program. And also just I have a lot of resources when it comes to, that space of real estate development. So I have people I can call on the phone like, hey, like I need this, and they're able to help guide me through those types of things. So I would say yes, I have a pretty good uh, like people that I can lean on when it comes to of course still learning about real estate development and real estate period. So I would say yeah, I have people and yeah. It is, but I would say mainly is my fiance though. Like,
Gotcha.
yeah, yeah. We just got completed with the triplex I was talking about, and we
Hmm.
had to kind of do minor renovations on two of the units.
Hmm.
And going through that process, I'm like, okay, wow, and just seeing how things are maneuvered, it's a learning experience. So every day is something new when it comes to real estate, especially with this market. So
That's very true too.
yeah,
Has
yeah.
anything surprised you since kind of stepping into the field of entrepreneurship that you weren't really expecting or thinking much of when you first started?
Honestly, me getting into entrepreneurship,
Hmm.
period.
Yeah.
I was always a person, and my closest friends will tell you, Mahalia just want to be in medicine, and that's all she wants. That was going to be it for me. As long as I was in medicine, I was cool. But I had to really sit down and realize that, and I had to be real with myself that I hear this all the time that having one stream of income is entirely too close to none.
Hmm.
So I'm like, okay, man, like what can you do? And once I learned about real estate and I became infatuated with it, I'm like, okay, this is something else you can do. And when I got into it, I think what has been surprising me the most is I would say myself. I'm not really a social person,
Hmm.
but getting out and networking, meeting new people, it ignites me. It really excites me, and that's something that's very surprising because I'm typically a person that's like, the person that goes to the party and stands in the corner. That's me. But in these environments where I have to network and be around people that are like minded when it comes to real estate, like I'm not necessarily a social butterfly, but I'm able to work the room and meet new people. And yeah, I would say that is what has surprised me the most when it comes to this entrepreneurship space because it's like I'm I guess some type of alter ego
Hmm.
or something like that. And yeah, that's what has surprised me the most.
No, I couldn't agree more. I'm definitely more introverted at nature, but I was listening to a podcast from Emma Grede, who's like one of the people who kind of works on Kim Kardashian's brand Skims, and she says like
Uh-huh.
you can't be introverted and be an entrepreneur. Like it just doesn't work.
Yeah,
So she was
yeah,
like, you got to tap
yeah,
into somewhere else deep within, and
yeah,
like you said, kind of mix a little bit of that extrovertedness, and like you mentioned,
yep,
like put yourself out there, ask questions,
yep.
network, and meet people. So I've definitely had to do the same of like learning how to adjust and manage in that aspect. But like I said, like it's definitely interesting with that dynamic dynamic as well.
And let me tell you this, like how I kind of got out of my shell. My fiance is she's an extrovert. So when she goes into the rooms, like she's able to talk and connect with people. She challenged me one time. She was like, because I have business cards. She
Mm,
was like, I challenge you to get rid of at least half, like, if she gave me, let's just say 10 cards, she was like, I challenge you to get rid of at least half of your cards
mm,
at this networking event. And she was like, I expect you to do that. And so that kind of helped me every time I go out. I'm like, all right, I got a stack of cards. I'm gonna get rid of at least half of them. So that means I at least, you know, am able to connect with 10 people at this meet and greet or something like that. So that things like that really helped me. And also I just got this, it's a bracelet. I think it's a Bink bracelet. You've
hmm.
heard of the virtual
Yeah.
card Bink. It's
Hmm.
actually a bracelet where I can tap on someone's phone and my business card comes
Oh,
up. And that's kind of like a conversation starter.
yeah, yeah,
So things like that like allow me to kind of get out of my shell. And then now that I am in the space of, getting in the space of real estate, I'm starting to see kind of the same people. So it gets
hmm.
easier and easier and easier. So, just as a true introvert, because when I say I'm truly an introvert, like people drain me. Being able to do this like is it was hard in the beginning, but it gets easier as you go along and make sure that you are showing your face and making
Yeah.
yourself available at these things.
No, I agree. I gotta try the bracelet one. I've never done
Yeah,
that. What
it's
I've been
really cool.
No, I gotta try that. What I've been doing is just wearing gear. Because I realized I was like, wait a second, that's an easy conversation starter. So I have like hats now. So I wear scrub caps. Like I'm in emergency medicine, so not surgery, but I always still wear scrub caps. So I wear like
Okay.
the podcast on it or like the brand, and that's the easy conversation starter for me. Because
Yep.
I'm much more better if like someone initiating it, and I can kind of
Yep.
roll off of that versus the opposite.
Exactly.
So usually they're
Exactly.
like, why? Like I went to work with this yesterday, and they're like, what is that? And I was like, oh, it's my podcast, and we had like a whole
Yep.
conversation. So I've been using that a little bit lately, but I gotta try the bracelet one. That's definitely really really cool.
But I do that as well. So I have pins.
Yeah,
I have I'm wearing a sweatshirt now. I got
nice.
hats and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So that is what I do as well.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And so obviously you are a busy resident and about to be a fellow not too soon. How do you find this quote unquote balance that people be talking about? Like obviously you just mentioned you have a fiance, you're running a business, you got residency, which residency is no joke in terms of hours and time. Like how do you find this balance?
I make it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a person that is a firm believer you make time for what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Luckily I am in a pathology residency, and pathology residency is not nearly as time consuming as other residency programs. So it allows me to have like my afternoons, well, my evenings, and kind of like once I'm out of the hospital, if I'm not on call, I'm truly out of the hospital. So it allows me like if I'm on a rotation and I'm out by 5 o'clock and I know I have a meet and greet at 6, like I'm able to go and really fully be myself there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how I make that time, especially if I'm not on call. People, especially in my residency program, yes, I'm also chief resident, but they know, okay, don't contact Mahalia unless you're on fire, like unless you're dying.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's another thing. Like you gotta have a boundary, because if you don't set that boundary, like people are gonna run over you.
Mm-hmm.
So that was something like I instilled in myself early, because a work-life balance is very important to me, because I already know that I was gonna want to do things outside of medicine,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't want medicine to consume me because I didn't want to get burnt out early. Or I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to get burned out at all. So, having that boundary set from the beginning, like, hey, I understand you might need something, but if you're not on fire, if you're not dying, please don't contact me. If you send me an email at 11 o'clock at night, don't think I'm about to send you an email back that night. I'll look at it 8 o'clock the next morning. So just having that boundary and, really sticking to that boundary, that not only having the boundary, but sticking to the boundary, that's
Mm-hmm.
important. Because a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people will say, oh, I set this boundary, but they don't respect their own boundary. So I really feel like that's how I have been able to maintain what I'm doing. And also making sure when I'm at work, I am present at work. I don't commingle the real estate stuff with like I don't do that at all because I don't want to be cross-minded when it
Yep.
comes to this. Like I want when I'm at work, I want to wholeheartedly be for my patients.
Hmm.
So and I make sure I do that. So
No, I think that's amazing too. Like I love the conversation about boundaries because I agree. I'm also the same way. I compartmentalize everything.
for
Like
sure.
even here in my apartment, this space that you see me in, this is solely for like content creation and so forth.
Okay.
Where I go over here to where my TV is, I solely just leisure. When I'm at work, I'm at work. You know, I
Yep.
don't mix stuff. When I'm with family, I don't bring up work at all. Like it's always surprised when people find out I'm a doctor because I don't talk about work at all. I don't use any medical jargon.
Yep.
When I'm clocked out, I'm clocked out. I don't mix the
Clocked
two
out.
out at all. I hate mixing the
I
two, but
feel
no,
you.
no, it's
Yeah, I
definitely
feel you.
really good about boundaries, though. I think
Yeah.
another thing too. Have you ever received any pushback in terms of you pursuing entrepreneurship and real estate, and maybe any negative people being criticizing of like, oh, like you can't be a good doctor while also doing all those things at the same time?
I haven't really gotten pushback, but I've just been told be careful because people might be jealous of you and talk about how you're probably spending too much hours doing your entrepreneurship stuff.
Hmm.
But a lot of people don't know that my residency program, that's kind of how my residency program how they were attracted to me because
Hmm.
even before, while I was in medical school, I was actually a co-owner of a restaurant as well. So
Mm.
my chair of my program really loved that, and he's like, "Oh, I love the fact that you are not just 100% medicine. You're actually able to be a person outside of the hospital." So I feel like I've gotten a lot of support. Again, I don't really talk about the real estate stuff while I'm at work,
Right.
so, and I feel like I do that intentionally so I don't get that pushback or I don't
Hmm.
get, talk like people talk negatively towards me. So that could be another factor of it, but I haven't really received any pushback. I've really received a lot of like, hey, that is like an incredible, like thought like that you have when it came to like if I pitch the idea to other physicians that might be a potential investor, like they're like, I wish I would have thought about this, while I was in residency.
Right.
So I've received more positive um comments towards entrepreneurship and stuff like that versus negative.
No, that's absolutely amazing. And I do love that too. I mean, that's the reason I kind of created this podcast to kind of showcase like you don't have to just be a physician. You can also be a physician and do other things and still be good at both, right? Like
Exactly.
I just think there's sometimes that old school mentality of like you live and breathe everything medicine from the time you're born to the time you die. And I think once again, life is short. You should be able to explore as many things as possible and be multifaceted in so many different ways. So that's why I love connecting with people like yourself who are kind of like breaking that kind of traditional norm and kind of
Yeah.
showcasing like you can
Yeah.
have a life, right? Like that's the most important thing.
Yep. And I I love that point that you said that you can be great at both
Hmm.
because no matter if someone says something to me about anything, I know my pathology. Like,
Yep.
and everybody knows that
Yep.
Mahalia knows what she's talking about. So, and you cannot take that away from me. And I love that as well.
Hmm.
So, yeah, like, and even if, let's just say someone's had something negative to say, I just think of it as they wish they could do it.
Yeah.
That's just how
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
So as long as I feel like as long as I'm not negatively impacting anyone and as long as I'm not negatively impacting myself, like I'm
Hmm.
good.
Hmm.
Let me do my thing.
Exactly. Let me live,
Yeah.
essentially.
Let
Yeah.
me live. Yeah.
Absolutely. What would be some of your biggest advice to either medical students or early trainees in terms of kind of learning a little bit more about financial literacy or anything that you kind of recommend that people maybe start doing a little bit earlier?
Yeah, so I know that some schools have like like financial literacy coaching.
Hmm.
So I would take that seriously. That's one thing in medical school that was given had that was the option like to take like financial literacy stuff. Like I didn't do that at all and I wish I did. I just that wasn't at the forefront of my mind. I like was stressed about other stuff at the time. So I would say, that is something very important to do. If you have that free coaching at school, take it. Also I would read White Coat Investor.
Mm-hmm.
Start there.
Yeah.
If you want to start there, start there. Rich Dad Poor Dad was a one of my first books I read that really opened my eyes as far as being first generation. Like, hey, like I need to switch my mentality when it comes to money.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another great book, and you have to read. Like I know, like people or we are tired of reading when it comes to like science and stuff like that. But in order to learn, you have to read.
Mm-hmm.
Read or listen, like if you listen to the audiobook, where however you learn, you have that's the only way you're gonna get the information. No one's gonna just give the information to you. So yeah, that would be my best advice. If you have the free resources at your institution, take it.
Mm-hmm.
If you're able to like read and the books aren't even big, read the
Yeah.
books.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so you can and really take your finances, your budget, take that stuff serious. So in the long run, creating a budget will be nothing for you, especially
Mm-hmm.
once you start making large lump sums of money. And also just being able to manipulate the money however you need to. Like you'll know, oh, I can't just spend $300 on clothes this day because it's in your checking account. No,
Mm-hmm.
like you got to be smart with your money. So the quicker you become smarter with your money, the better off you'll be in the end. So
No, 100% agree. I definitely love what you said of like essentially starting where you're at, right? Like
yeah,
whether
for
it's
sure.
like at your institution, if they have any good classes or people you can talk to. I know in medical school, even the financial aid offices usually have really good connections to people who can put you in touch with stuff. Reading, like I said, books. Like I'm a big book advocate. I also Rich Pad Poor Dad was one of my first books that I kind of read in
Yeah,
terms of my financial
it's
journey. And
crazy,
yeah,
right?
it's crazy because, like I said, it's just it opens your mind up of like, wow, like from being just like on that I remember the rat race he talks about
Yep.
of like
Yep.
making money, spending money, and just keep
Yep.
going and going and going, and just never
Yep. Yep.
building anything to make money for you. So
Yep.
I think those are some good avenues. And even if you can't buy books, library card. I always tell people, I remember in
Library
college,
card.
went to the library every day. All
Yep.
the big name books that are out on Amazon and on the market are most likely at your local library.
Yep.
And I don't know if this is an everywhere thing, but I know in Connecticut, especially, like if the book is not at your specific library, they can ship it to you at that library.
Oh.
So I don't know if that's an all everywhere spot, but I know especially me in college, like when I was studying for the MCAT and so forth,
Mhm.
they didn't have the book at my local library, but they shipped it over and it was still free.
Wow.
So once again, for people like
That's
use
dope.
what you have in terms of resources, YouTube. I mean, honestly, for entrepreneurship,
YouTube.
TikTok has honestly been very helpful for me. I'm on founder TikTok, business TikTok, a lot of good gems that are over there as well. So once again, I think we're in an age and an era where the barriers to entry are so low. So
For
might as well
sure.
take advantage of it. So I think that's something that's very important.
For sure. YouTube University.
Mm-hmm.
That will help you out.
Exactly. So as we get ready to close, tell people where they can find you, where they can connect with you, and most importantly, where they can find more information about Develop Doc.
Yeah, you can reach me personally, Mahalia Robinson, on Instagram at two underscores Doc Rob. And also you can find me on LinkedIn. Just look up Mahalia Robinson. I also have a Develop Doc Instagram page is two underscores Develop Doc. And yeah, that's how you can reach me. And you'll see a lot of information about, why this work is important in the community, not only in Baltimore City, but all over the world for first generation medical trainees.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And once again, we'll have all the links to your social media platforms as well as your business social media platform linked down below. I hope this episode was very engaging for you guys because I know it was for me. So till next time, guys, and thank you so much again for being part of the Resident Founder podcast.
Thank you for having me.